Hello everyone. In this video, we will create the console application using the Azure OpenAI. So before we create the console application, I assume you have created the uh, Azure OpenAI service in the Azure cloud and you have deployed the models here. As in the demo, I am using the GPT-3.5 Turbo 16K. That model I have installed in my trial instance, and I'm using the details of my trial instance to authenticate the Azure OpenAI using the endpoint and key. So the endpoint and key you can find when you navigate your Azure OpenAI service. Left side you will see the key and endpoints. There you will see the key 1 and key 2. So you have to copy you have to take the handy of the key value and the endpoint URL. So make sure the three value you have taken for the notes, because these values we will be using in the console application. So I have already taken it, and what I have done is, let me tell you here. I have created the console application, and in the app config I have already added the API key and the endpoints and the model name into that. And I'm not going to share it to you, but in the using the configuration setting I can retrieve it from the app config. So this is already I have done. So if you want, you can directly hard code in your code, but in the real time, for the project specific, so what we do is these key we'll put into the key vault, and from the key vault we try to get those values. So this is the ideal scenario, but since this is the demo, I have kept my credentials of the Azure OpenAI into the app config. Okay, moving next. So I assume you have taken this key in handy and you have added these value into the app config. If you want to use as a into more secure way, then you can put into the Azure Key Vault, and then you can authenticate your Azure Key Vault and then get the values from your particular Azure Key Vault, and by giving the key name there, then you will get the key secret value from the key vault, Azure Key Vault. Okay, moving next. Here we will be using the Azure OpenAI library for .NET SDK, and this is the currently latest stable version is 1.0.0 beta version. So this package we need to include in our project. As of now, in the console application project here, we do not have that any OpenAI related package here, right? So we need to add it. To add it, what I have done is, these packages you might not find by this name in the package manager here. So let me search it. If I try to search here, add package manager, and try to search here, browse, and try to search Azure OpenAI, then this exactly the same name you might not find. So in this case, what we have to do is we need to install using the package manager console here. So you can go to the below tab package manager console, and you can copy this text what we have here, pm console. So we can copy this one and we will run it here in the console application. So it will get added to our project here. To get this URL, you just search in the Google that I want to get the package manager of the Azure OpenAI or particular version beta 16 or latest one. Then this will redirect you to this site here. You will find the link there, and then you can come here and then copy this um, uh, command to download it. So now you can see Azure OpenAI has been added. So this is what we need at least, so that we can access the SDKs of the SDK related files of the Azure OpenAI, and then we can do the chat completion on that. So what I'm going to build here is, this is the example. So in this one, there are few examples about the chat completion. So first of all, we need to understand how to initialize the OpenAI client. So there are different way. This is the one of the way we can initialize the OpenAI client. One is passing the URL and then key, then it will initialize the client. This is the approach used in one of the example, this one, get chat completion. So you can see here the URI is created here using the endpoint. So the your endpoint will be looking like this from the Azure key and endpoint details from the Azure OpenAI service, and then the credential is created using the passing the key value of the Azure OpenAI. Then the client is getting created using this one. Once client is created, then we have to create the chat completion option. So in the chat completion option, if you look to this class, we'll go more details about it. Then this is the class of the chat completion options. So here we are having the different properties. So in the demo, I will be using the property like deployment name, which indicates like on which deployment you want to run the chat completion. So currently the deployment name will be our the GPT-3.5 Turbo 16K. So that model name we will pass here. Then we have the message. So message is something what you want to ask to the model. So that message you can do. So here in the example also you can see the messages, a lot of messages has been added here, right? Like that. And after that we have the parameter called temperature. So below we are having temperature. So temperature has the value between 0 and 2.0. Here this indicates the how much hallucination you want to add in your response. So model will try to add its own text into the response if you are putting the temperature value high. So if the temperature value is 0, then it indicates there is no hallucination. I mean model is not doing or adding extra content into your while providing the response. Well, when it will try to do the try to perform the completion on your request and try to generate the response, then it will not try to hallucinate and it will not try to add its own way of more text into the response. So when we'll keep the temperature as 0, but when you do temperature with 2.0, then it will try to add more and more its own way understanding text into your response. And also if you are not specifying any temperature value, then default value of that one it will be 1.0. So these three parameters I will be using. Along with that, we are having the different other options. One is the user. You can specify user type, whether it is user or the assistant. You can do that one. Then we have the one of the options we use frequently is the choice count, the how many choices you want to get generated when it is response is getting coming from the chat completion. So the valid range is between 0 to 128. So like when the response is coming from the model, right? So these many choice options will be there. You can obviously it will be ordered in the it will be ordered in the way the first preferred answer will be given into the choice 0, then choice 1, 2, 3, like that. So mostly the choice index value of 0, that will have the more accurate answer. So we will try to get the value from that. So that is why in the example here you will see the choice value here. When the response is coming from this chat completion, then we get the response dot value, and the choices we can have up to, like here it is mentioned, right, 128. And then from here we get the index of 0 and then get the message and content from that. So this is what we are going to build. So now let's edit our console application here. So first of all, I'm going to create one of the method, a static method. So it will be private static async task, and I'm going to give this perform chat completion. Okay, and here we will be writing the code here. So first of all, what we want is in the console we want to point as a user, and the user will be typing the questions in the console, right? So for that I'm just going to change the console display color. So font color foreground color of that console, I'm going to change a console dot green, and then console dot write, I'm going to write as a user. Now we are asking user to input the prompt, and then we will reset the console color, and user will be typing the question in the default color of the console, which we can take the value into the where uh, user input equals to console dot read line. So user has whatever the user will input into the question when the prompt is asking by user, then it will be stored into the user input, and then we will process the chat completion model on this user input. So for that, I'm going to create the another method here. I'm going to name this private static async, and it will give me the result as a task as a string here. Okay, and I'm going to name this as a process chat completion. Okay, and here it will take the input as a query or the user input. Basically we can, because whatever the user has asked, that will pass here. So I'm just going to give this as a user input here, and now here we will try to do this setting how we have seen here. So first of all, we will try to create this chat completion option. So here we'll create the where chat completion option, and before that we have to make this here using the Azure.ai .openai, so that we can reference the libraries of this SDK. So chat completion option equals to new chat completion option here, and we can add here. So chat completion option dot message dot add, and here we'll add the new chat uh, request user message here, and this will be the user input. So we have added. So why I have added this one, because if you see here in the chat completion option in the user message, we are having this different type of user request message we can add. So I'm taking the option this one, chat user request. So user is asking some questions to the model, right? So this is where it is called, and I'm asking this user message, I'm passing this user message to the chat completion option there. But they are based on your requirement and the what you want to perform with the model, the way the logic you want to build, you can use the different classes of the request message here. Then we have to set the model name, so chat completion. But before that, I forgot to get the value from my app config. So here I'm going to keep the value of the model name, and that I will be taking from the configuration manager configuration setting here. In the configuration setting, it will access the configuration setting of my app config, and then I have set into the app setting, and here the value of the key name of where my model name, which is nothing but this is the model name, GPT 35 turbo 16K. So this model name I'm using, and I have stored into the app config. So the name of this one I have kept here. This is the model. This is the key name into the app config, and I can access this value. I'm not showing you that app config because it will expose my endpoint and secret. So I'm just keeping the secret of my trial instance endpoint and secret. But it is stored. So in your real time, if you know, you configure your setting like that. Next is string. Then we have the endpoint equals to configuration setting dot app setting, and then we have the endpoint name. So this is the key name I have given to the endpoint. Then we have a string, then we have the key, and that will be configuration setting dot app setting, and then the name of that setting is this one, API key in the app configuration. Okay, so that's all. So with these three value which we need to create the OpenAI client, and further we have retrieved from the app config, and we will use this value. So here the chat completion dot deployment name. Now we can set this deployment name as our model name. Okay, then chat completion dot temperature. Then I'm going to set it as 0. So this setting is configured here. So likewise, how we have seen here, the message, deployment name, and temperature, this thing we have configured. Now we have to create the client here. So you can see the client are created using this approach. There are different approach. One approach is this one. So I'm taking the example of this one. So I'm going to create the client using this approach. So I'll copy this one and put the code here, and which is a client equals to OpenAI client. The endpoint is nothing but this is our endpoint, and the this one default Azure credential is nothing but this is our key. Okay, so Azure credential, Azure key credential. So it will create the new Azure key credential, and this is the endpoint. So I'll copy and set here. So now the endpoint will be passed here, then the key will be passed here as the key. So now it will create the client of the Azure OpenAI client. So I can give this name correctly, like OpenAI client. Okay, now this client we can perform the chat completion. So let's do that, where chat response will be coming from OpenAI client dot get chat completion async. I'm using the async operation here, and then it will pass the chat completion option. That's all. Since it is async, so we have to add here await. Okay, now the response what we get from here, you can see it is having like this. So same way we'll read the value how we have example here. Response will be coming into the value, then we have the choices like from 1 to 128, maybe the number of choices we can limit there, and then we have the message, and from the message we have the content. So here we'll return that one. So return chat response dot value dot choices of 0 index dot message dot content. So content is the string value, so it will return from this one. So now our method is developed. So this method we will call here where response equals to await process chat completion on the user input. Okay, and then we will try to show this response into the console there. So for that, first of all, I'm going to change the color of the console. That will be the console color dot blue. Okay, and then console dot write here, and then we'll write assistant, which is the response coming from the chat completion. So I'm just now the assistant is nothing but the model, the OpenAI service. It is giving the response. So assistant, and then we'll write the console dot write line, and the response we will write here. Finally, we'll clear the color of the console dot reset color. And this operation we have to run, we have to keep it running until we close this application. So for that I'm just doing one thing. I'll just put into the while loop so that it will be always running. So until I will close the console window, so it will be asking, keep on asking user to prompt in, and then it will process and it will give the result. So it will keep on asking like that. So okay, we have done it. Now we'll call this action, sorry, we'll call this method into this main one. So here await, this method we will call. So we have done. So now the code is simple. So what we did is, in the main method we are calling one of the method, the perform chat completion. Here we are just manipulating the console, where we prompt the first user, and it will ask user to input some query what they want to search, and then we process the query under the process chat completion, where we have retrieved the value of the Azure OpenAI configurations setting. I mean, basically keys and secret keys and endpoints URL, and from the app config, and then we have created the chat completion options, setting the parameters message, setting the properties message, deployment name, and temperature, and then we are creating the object of the OpenAI client, and then using that OpenAI client, we are performing the chat completion async and getting the response, and returning the content from here, and that same content we are displaying into the console here. So this is very simple. So now let's run it and check. Okay, so there is error. Let me build this again. Public static void main. Okay, we're saying the process program does not contain a static void main method suitable in an entry point. So here public static void, we are having a static method. Okay, this is async. Here we can do like this. Give me 1 second. Okay, it seems here we have to, this is not found. So this is the async method, right? So it is a type of task. So here we need to change it. So we'll change the sync task here, and then we can make this as a await. Public static Okay, so here I think it is not this, so we have to change, since we are calling await here, so we have to change this one to async. Okay, so now the main method is now a static async task main, and here we are calling this perform chat completion as a await here. So now this is correct. Now let's run it. Okay, now it is asking user to input here. So now we can search something. What is the capital of India? So now this user input, the what I have asked, it will go to the OpenAI model there, the Turbo 3 GPT-3.5 Turbo 16K, and it will process the request, and it will give the response here. This one. Now we can ask another question, and it will give the response like that. So what is the capital of Karnataka? So it will process the same way, it will give the response like that. So I hope this initial under setting up the console application and using the Azure OpenAI in your application it was informative to you, and you learned something as a beginner using this console application. So thank you for watching this video, guys.